All right, magic makers. I wanted to share this quick Friday mini-sode with you. Last week I was talking to the girls in my Fit Girl Magic Society, and we're talking about just summer, right? And summer is just summer. And sometimes, our trajectories of where we want to go, we get a little bit off kilter, we get a little bit off track, and that's okay. Right? That's what summer's for. For I know I live in New England and I live for summer. And so they were like, I'm like, how do we stay on track? And, many people are like, going away for weekends, I just get a little derailed and then I don't know how to get back on track. So I was like, awesome conversation because I can't imagine they're not alone in feeling like this. So the biggest thing is that I want you to give yourself grace. Like that's the first place I want to start. I want to give yourself grace because I know what that feels like. It wasn't that long ago that I would go on vacation and it would just like panic would strike through me. I would be like, oh my God, so where am I going to get my workouts? What am I going to eat? And it would just be like all these things. And then I would be like, I have to pack all this food. And then I got to like Google where the closest gym is, or am I going somewhere I drive? Can I bring equipment with me? And it would just be this whole like extra layer on top of, hey, you're going on freaking vacation. So that's the first place. I want you to give yourself grace. And here's where I'm like, have a plan, right? I'm gonna break down our plans into nutrition on one side, and I'm gonna break down a plan, nutrition on one side, and I'm gonna break down the plan for fitness on the other side, right? Because it's like winging it doesn't work, right? I am a former winger, and every time I try to wing it, I was always pissed at myself because I thought like, the stars would align and I would be able to do everything I wanted to do. Yeah, that's not how life works. If life works that way for you, holla at your girl, because it doesn't work like that for me. So the first place I want to start is nutrition, right? So many of us, right? I'm of a certain age that I know my plans. I know my plans. I know what I'm doing this weekend. I know what I'm doing next weekend. Maybe the third or fourth weekend from here. I might not know, but I know pretty much when I'm going away, when I'm traveling, so on and so forth. So look ahead, right? Where am I planning ahead? So the first thing I started doing was if I knew, say, I'm going away this weekend, I would be like, okay, so I'm going to make sure that I have food in my house because that's the number one thing everyone says to me. I don't have food in my house. So the first thing I would do is have food in my house. So that if that means I'm buying 2 weeks worth of groceries in 1 week and just freezing stuff or throwing buying things that I know that can hold. That's one. Two, I'm ordering from Instacart, curbside pickup, whatever, so that I know that I will have food in the house, right? So that's the first thing I would say to people. Like, nowadays, especially after Rona, like many, if not every grocery store has some form of delivery or curbside pickup. The third thing is double cook, right? So if I know I'm going away and I'll be honest, the only thing I pre-cook, right? I freshly cook my dinner and I freshly cook my breakfast is lunch. And so usually I grill up some chicken or salmon, chicken, salmon, or shrimp are the things I grill pretty much for my lunch. And so I will double cook that. So if I am grilling on Monday morning, I'm grilling chicken, I will double the portions that I'm cooking and I will freeze that second half. Now I know some of you are like, oh, Kim, when I freeze, it's just rubbery, it tastes like ass. It used to taste like that for me too, and I would gut through it. But I found a way to make it not taste rubbery, taste like ass. Let it completely cool, right? So leave it out on your counter and let it completely cool because what causes it to be like that rubbery um, tasting, bad smelling is the condensation that I used to like put it in the Tupperware and throw it in the freezer, and then like as it was cooling, all the water would go right on the meat. So instead, I let it completely as it dry. Let it completely cool on my countertop. I just put a paper towel over the top of it so it has plenty of, air and it doesn't get that like the moisture in there. Once it's cooled, I put the lid on it and I throw it in the freezer. You can put it in a, I use glass. You could put it in the glass freezer. You can put it in a Ziploc bag, whatever brings you joy. So that's how I make sure that my freezer stuff doesn't taste like ass. And so the other things are like, you know, you can take ground meat. You know, ground meat takes like 2 seconds to cook. So I can take ground meat, I can pre-meatball the meatballs, throw them in the freezer. I can pre-cook the meatball, throw them in the freezer. I can make spaghetti sauce, throw it in the freezer. And I can put spaghetti sauce on anything, right? And make spaghetti sauce. Any ground meat, I could turn it into tacos, right? So start to think about like it might have you sit down. You know, I'm a huge fan of Pinterest. It might have you sit down and be like, what's a 30-minute meal, a 15-minute meal? But like tacos are like my number one go-to. I always have some type of frozen ground meat in my freezer. And I always have some type of taco shell wrap, whatever, in my pantry so that when I do have those like, you know, last minute things, I know I can easily just create a taco, right? Um, so start to think about how can I do those things as far as my nutrition. The other thing is there's a company called a company that makes they're called Kevin's, and they're pretty much they're pre-cooked meals, and so all I have to add is a vegetable to it. And you know, you can throw it in the microwave, you can throw it in the oven, and boom, boom, boom. They're really healthy, taste great, and you can usually and you can. I know that I could find it at my local grocery store. You might have to Google, but it's called Kevin's, and I have probably 4 or 5 different variations of things. You know, chicken, beef type things. Another company that I've used before, it's called Cook Unity, and I don't know if they're available, how far and wide they're available, but basically the same concept that you have to order it online, and they're pre-cooked meals. Again, you could throw it in the freezer or throw it in the oven. And both of these are like when my husband used to, you know, before COVID, he used to travel a lot. I don't like to cook for myself. I don't like to cook for myself, and so I would always end up like having like the same things that I wasn't not really wanting to have, or I just have like a shake, and I'm like, oh, you know what, Kim, you could do better. So that's when I started eating Kevin meals, because then I'm like, you know what, I can easily make Kevin meals by myself. Right. So the other thing is takeout. So many people think like, oh, takeout's so bad. All right. So I used to live on takeout before Rona, but there are so many other options of takeout beside pizza and Chinese, right? You know, depending on where you live. Okay. I will admit, some people who are like, I live out in the country, we don't really have takeout. But you know, even Chinese food, right? Beef, broccoli, you know, protein, veg. Um, you know, you know, if I stay away from the fried foods, I'm great at the MSGs, but I think most Chinese places no longer use MSG. But it could be wrong about that. At least in my area, they don't really use MSG anymore. Um, but yeah, takeout. A good old fashioned deli, they have, you know, a salad with great grilled chicken on top of it. They might even make other, you know, grilled proteins on top of it. How you can have a sandwich and get double the meat, right? Get a sandwich and put turkey deli, you know, deli turkey on top of it. But yeah, get Mexican food and get a fajita with, you know, again, protein, veg. You get some guacamole, right? So it's like there's other options that we start to, you know, kind of expand our horizons past pizza, right? You know, past pizza and Chinese. Um, so that's it for as far as like how do I manage my nutrition. Now, when it comes to workouts, here's where I'm gonna like put yourself in two camps, right? So the weekend is typically 2 days long, right? So you know, you travel on Friday, you have all day Saturday, part day Sunday, and then you're heading back home. So I can use Saturday and Sunday. I can just have those as my built-in rest days. That's my rest day. Boom, done. I can also say, you know what? I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to ride my bike, kayak, stand up paddleboard, go for a run. You know, I can use that. So those are like some other alternatives. The second is does my workout have to look like it does at home? Right? Can it look different? Can it be different? And yes, it can. And so I want you to think more about like, you know, what makes a good workout. And so for a really long time, and everything I share, it's thoughts I had, like the fucked up thoughts I used to have too. And it wasn't an overnight like poop, I no longer think like this. Like, no, it took a lot to deprogram me. And give yourself grace. It might take a little bit of time to deprogram you. So I used to think that a workout wasn't good if it wasn't 2 hours. Like, that was my head. Like, it wasn't 2 hours and it had to be at a gym. Like, boom, that was my thought. So then, as I've matured, and as I've, like, gone through my fitness journey, I was like, you know what, one, I no longer want to make the time for that. I no longer want to make the time for 2-hour workouts. There's so many other things I would rather do. Right. That's me. That's me. And maybe you're like, I do like a good 2-hour workout from time to time. Great. Time to time, great. But if you're like, yeah, girl, I just don't want to make that time anymore. So here's where it took me a while, and my mentor really helped me to kind of, like, move away from the 2-hour workout. Is that she was like, okay, Kim, this is how you're going to judge a workout. It's no longer going to be judged by how long you work out. It's going to be judged by, am I breathing heavy? Am I burning? Are my muscles burning? Am I sweating? Right? So those are the three things, right? So if you think about that, right now, I can get that kind of workout if I put in the intensity, right? The workout has to have the intensity. And when you're doing a 90-minute, 2-hour workout, like, how much intensity can you really bring, right? But if you're going to make it that long. And so, as you may have heard me say many times before, I can go long, I can go hard, but I can't go hard for long, right? So I want you to think about, right? So if I do a 20 to 25-minute workout, I can go pretty damn hard, right? I can pretty freaking heavy, because I know, like, this is it, it makes me more focused. What you think about, like, before you go away on vacation, I don't know about you, but, like, if I know I'm going away on vacation on Friday, that the 4.5 days before I go on vacation, I'm like, I am like a machine. I am just getting shit done, right? I'm just like, no, like, oh yeah, I'll get it done when I get it done. I'm like, I only got 4.5 days, game on, let's go. That's how I am at the gym, right? I'm like, I'm only here for 25 minutes, or I'm only here for 30 minutes. Let's go, let's get it done. And so a lot of times, especially I'll go with the weekend, and, instead of being a girl who's like, I got to Google the gym, I'm like, all right, I'm going to do 5 exercises, 5 rounds, every minute on the minute. It's body weight exercise, or I only have my kettlebell, and I'm just going to crush. And that has just been, for me, so free, right? I look forward to those kind of workouts. I know that I'm like, even when I'm like, oh, I don't really want to work out today, it happens. I do have those days. I'm like, it's 25 minutes. It's 20 minutes. It's 15 minutes. I can get it done. And if I feel like still feel like I have a little bit more in the tank, I can add on, right? I can add on. I could go for a walk, right? So really, when you start thinking about, as we start to, move into our lives, like, do we want to have more life, or do we want to have more, our days revolve around, our workouts revolve around our food? Because that's what was my biggest kicker. I had a coach ask me, she's like, this is right when I was transitioning out of the gym and starting to create my own coaching business. And she's like, Kim, where do you see yourself? Like, how do you see yourself spending your days? And I sat down and I was like, do I see myself spending 2 hours of my day at the gym? Or was I spending 2 hours out of my day at the gym because I was running away from my job? I was running away from my job. That was, come to Jesus for me. Like, a lot of, I wouldn't say my fitness journey has also been a um more of a personal development journey, more of a, asking myself the hard questions, asking myself the questions that a lot of people don't want to freaking ask themselves, and or admit, right? You don't want to admit that, like, I was not happy. And because I was not happy, I used the gym. And, I said to myself, if I want to get happy, I got to do something else. Right. And, that's hard. That's some hard shit. And, I want you to really think about, right? And when didn't this took a turn that I wasn't expecting it. But I want you to think about, right? If I go away and I'm getting all hopped up about my food and my nutrition, it's like I want you to think about like go in with a mindset of like, I'm gonna do my best, right? Because it's like, I had a client, Martha. I'm gonna wrap up with this story. So I had a client, Martha, and she traveled all over the place, and she would always be like, "Oh, I can't want to go on vacation. I just lose it." And I'm like, do you have to lose it, or is it because you're so wound up at home that when you go on vacation, you get a taste of something and you're just like, bring on the party, right? So I really want you to think about like when you go on vacation, me trying to keep up my same exact routine on vacation isn't going to work. 9 times out of 10, it's probably not going to work. Unless like you know that you're going in a very like regimented place. Or do you want to have a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more wiggle room when you do head out on these weekend trips, these vacation trips? I really want you to think about that because it's like, I see it all the time, like at home, you're like, you live in this box and you're really good in this box. You're not home, you're like girls gone wild, right? I don't know if you remember those videos. You're like girls gone wild with food and drink and everything. Or do you want to have that like balance where you're like, you know what? I can have a drink and it not turn into 40. I can have, a nice fun appetizer and it not turn into a weekend of debauchery. I can find this happy medium between honoring my commitment to my health and also mixing in that fun. There is a balance here, and I know that everyone can find it. We just have to give ourselves the grace and not go 30 rounds up here when we actually don't when we disappoint ourselves. Like we will always disappoint ourselves, and that's okay. It's just the question is, okay, what's next, right? What's my next action? Because my next action determines my direction. All right, ladies, have a fabulous Friday, and I will talk to you next week.